Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And in this video we're going to be going through the latest character event that we receive on Relm, and of course we're going to be concentrating on her EX fight. Now before we do begin, first of all I would like to apologize for this very late video. Unfortunately, I have been on night shift early in the week, and I'll still be on night shift early next week. So if there's anything that we receive, like a character event that happens early next week, unfortunately I won't be able to cover that straight away. But if there is, I will make a video out later in the week. But without further ado, let's start this video. So the boss for this EX fight is the Elemental Behemoth. Now in terms of weaknesses, it changes depending on the element that the Elemental Behemoth is on, so that's why I put changes there. As for resistance, it does have resistance to physical, and that includes melee and range attacks and magical attacks. However, he does lose the physical magic resistance, and he also takes greater brave damage when he is attacked with his elemental weakness, and this returns to normal after using the convert element ability. As for its other abilities, it has Heave, which is a melee HP attack, Flare Star, which is a group magic brave attack, Combo Rush, which is a melee brave attack and can also inflict speed down, Cross Element, which is a group magic brave attack and also removes the target's buffs without any frames, and this also has a high turn rate. Next up, it has Bark Blow, which is a melee brave attack plus HP attack. This also inflicts a turn rate down. Now let's go over the convert element ability. Now he will change color, and this will grant him attack up and brave region as well. The good thing for us is this is set in a systematic order, so we're gonna look at this from the level 76 up. First off, it'll start itself in the blue element and then change to green, red, and then yellow, and then it'll just start from the beginning again. For the blue element, it is resistant to ice and weak to fire. Its variable power ability, which is going to be a ice magic brave attack, inflicts a defense down. Now for the green color, he will have resistance to wind element and weak against thunder elements. Its variable power will change to a wind magic brave attack, and it will also inflict initial brave down. For the red element, it is resistance to fire and weak to ice, and for its variable power, it will be a fire magic brave attack which inflicts attack down. And finally, for the yellow version, it will be resistance to thunder and weak against wind element. The variable power will change to a Thunder Magic Brave attack, which inflicts max brave down. And I would just like to let you guys know that the Elemental Behemoth actually has an immunity to all element resist down debuffs. Okay, so now that we know the weaknesses, resistances, and abilities of the Elemental Behemoth, it's now time to take a look at the general tips and guide. And the first thing that I would like to let you guys know is to actually save about 80% of your abilities on the boss. Now usually I would encourage you guys to just keep using your abilities, because with the level 60 awakening, pretty much the bosses aren't that difficult. However, this boss does have quite a ton of HP, so you better be prepared to have about 80% of your abilities for the last boss. Now the next tip for you guys is obviously to bring in the boosted characters such as Relm, Edgar, and Vivi. Other characters to consider are Vaughn, Preach, Lightning, Cater, Alice, Terra, Squall, Tidus, Sarah, Laguna, Papalimo, or even Vincent. Now I didn't put Jet there as well, but he can be quite useful here as well, as he does have the fire element attack. Now for the most part, the first set of characters here from Vaughn to Alice is basically to take advantage of the elemental that the elemental behemoth is at. And Terra, Squall, Tidus, and pretty much everyone else is there for debuffs and DPS. Now as for healers and brave battery options, the ones that I would recommend are Selfie, Yuna, Lilith, and even Kral is there, and of course Ishtola if you really want to do some heavy HP damage towards the end. As for the summon, I still prefer Ifrit over Bahamut, but Bahamut is useful here as well, especially if you do plan to bring elemental attackers to take advantage of the boss's weaknesses. Okay, so now let's take a look at some general tips for the fight itself. Now the first tip I have is, if you're using Ifrit, make sure that he's almost ready for the summoning at the start of wave 5. This is quite essential, especially if you're not bringing any fire attacker, so you can take advantage of the boss's first weakness and then deal as much damage as you can. For the second tip is to actually pay attention to the boss's color to know its weaknesses. Basically, if it's blue, then the weakness is fire, and vice versa. If it's green, then it's weak to thunder, and then vice versa. So just you need to pay a little bit of attention. I mean, it's kind of hard to miss, but you know, I still want to reiterate that. Now the next tip I have for you guys is actually you can apply any debuff on the boss apart from elemental imperils. So you can stack 6 debuffs like sap, poison to reduce its brave, and so you can avoid getting a lot of brave damage and of course the HP attack. Now my last tip for you guys is to actually pay attention with cross element, because if this hits you, that you will lose your buffs. So you have to pay attention and reapply your buffs so you can do as much damage as you can. So just reapply them as needed. Okay, now it's time to take a look at some possible party compositions. Of course, the first one is going to be the boosted characters, which consists of Relm, Vivi, and Edgar. Now I did put Squall as the support here because pretty much the same idea as my previous video. You use Squall early on in the first 4 waves and just to clear them out as quick as you can. However, I would like to remind you guys that you have to pay attention on your summon, especially if you have Ifrit as your summon and if you plan to use Ifrit straight away. So in order for you to do a lot of damage, it's important if your party doesn't actually have a fire attacker. So in this case, Vivi is your fire attacker, so you should be fine even if Ifrit isn't fully available. For the next party composition is basically the party composition I went with, which is Terra, Selfie, and Squall. And this is also with a Squall support, but you can also have a Terra support as well. But it's not limited to Terra and Squall. You can have Vivi, you can have anyone you really want, really. But for me it's Squall, so I can just take advantage of the early stages. Now with this particular compositions, you do have to take my advice in making sure that Ifrit is almost filled up before you actually go into the last wave. That way you can summon Ifrit in the next 2 or 3 turns, and then basically deal as much damage as you can. Now for the third composition is basically Relm, Noctis, and Selfie. And this is with a Squall support and Ifrit and Bahamut. Now the idea of this particular composition is basically stealing the turns. Relm does a great job at this, especially if you have her 15 and 35 CP weapon. I do believe it's the 35 CP weapon that you can get the sketch. I'm not 100% sure on that. I actually haven't been using her. I tried pulling for her weapons, but unfortunately never got her 35. So the idea of this again is basically turn stealing, or making sure you take advantage as much of the turns that you get. Noctis does this as well, and basically with the reduced amounts of turns that you have, you will have a pretty high score. And again, probably better with Ifrit here, so Relm can use her sketch summon, and you can use the fire ability in order for you to do as much damage as you can early on. Bahamut I just put there just because it's Bahamut. And finally, for the last one, is just to bring 2 DPS in a Brave Battery, and this is with a Dark Knight Cecil support. Now the DPS preferably is you have some fire attacker, so you can take advantage of the early heavy damage. And as for the Brave Battery, again, Selfie is probably the best one right now, so I'll leave it up to you guys with what you want for that composition. So with that in mind, what are my final thoughts of this fight? Well, I feel like this has been one of the most challenging bosses we've had recently, and I feel that way because I actually had to do multiple tries to get the 130,000 points. Now this could be because I actually don't have a lot of elemental attackers. The only ones that I have ready basically with the level 60 awaken at level 60 plus level 60 passive is Prish. So I don't really have a lot of options. I never got Alice to 60 passive, plus I don't have her weapon. I could have used a Vincent in the end, however he is still not awakened at this stage of the game. So I wasn't really confident in relying on him as well. Now I did mention that Jet can actually do pretty well or decent in this fight because of his Jet Slash, which attacks twice if you know how to activate it. So basically he's doing about, you know, a decent amount of HP damage for a level 50 character. But for those people who actually have elemental attackers like Alice, I would say Papalimo can do well here as well, but at the same time, again, he is only level 50. I just put him in there because you can use him to basically reduce the weaknesses of the boss. So overall, if you have elemental attackers, again, Alice just comes to mind. She probably has the most diverse one here, and I would say to some certain extent Vaughn does that as well. He does have the ice plus the wind ability, so you know, if you can basically have your Ifrit blow up at the start, and if it changes, then Vaughn can actually use his abilities to take advantage of the weakness. But again, it's the second form is a lightning weakness, so it is green, so you do have to have like lightning or someone with spark strike or something like that in order to break it again. And when I mean break, is to break the physical and magic resistance of the boss. So anyway guys, I think that's it for this video. Remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. As always, I'd like to hear from you guys. What sort of strategy did you use, and who are your teams for this one? Because honestly, I haven't seen a lot of variation from the Selfie plus 2 DPS what do you call this, composition. So I would like to hear from you guys if you have someone different or different party compositions that I have. Anyway, this is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.